everyone, this is Liz Easton, and I wanted to take a quick second to invite you to listen in to the PC Book Club. Wait, I need to start again. Hi, everyone. This is Liz Easton, and I wanted to take a quick second to invite you to listen to the PC Book Club, aka PCBC. Every so often, Ricardo Avila and I chat about the books that you should be reading right now. It's just like sitting on your own private book club discussion, only there's probably slightly more references to true crime and Charles Dickens. I did not write this.
We may have to re-record that anyway, because I think you just said it's just like sitting on your own private book club.
She did. That was great. Sitting on a book club. Sitting on a private book club. That's pretty racy. Sorry.
Should I try again? It's just like sitting in on your own private book club discussion, only there's probably slightly more references to true crime and Charles Dickens. So if you're looking for the class with an occasional dose of the sass, then check out the PC Book Club right here on the Popping Collars feed. Class and sass.
Love it.
I was praying to the Lord for some fun.
Hey, I'm Greg Knight.
Hey, I'm Ryan Parker.
And this is the Popping Collars pilgrimage project, Walk the Earth. That was the title that I came up with last month.
Kane?
I really like it. I
I do too.
Working title, Walk the Earth. That's what we're...
Let's go. It's very ambitious. Very ambitious.
Where Ryan and I attempt to walk around the world, or at least across Spain. Ryan... Welcome back. It's been a while since we've talked. The last time we got together, we were talking about Buñuel, a Louis Buñuel obscure French cinema art house film. We needed some time off after that conversation.
I needed a break.
But we're back for more. This is one of our conversation episodes. And in the past, we've invited guests on for these. But sometimes, you and I just talk. Like, for instance, I think it was just you and I when we were talking about the tourism of the Camino and stuff like that. But This month, we wanted to dig into something that we've been sort of talking around the outskirts of, but we want to take it head on this time. And that's the religious and or non-religious aspects of the current Camino population. Just laying a little bit of groundwork, the history of the Camino to Santiago de Compostela was a route that penitents would take in the Middle Ages. So if you had committed some grievous sin, right, you would walk the road to Santiago de Compostela, you would collect a shell to prove that you made it at the end of your journey, and your sins would be forgiven, whatever it was that you had done.
Do you think there was ever some enterprising person who would sell shells halfway?
Oh, man, you've got to think that somebody was just like, well, what if I just went up north to the northern coast and just grabbed
because now you don't even have to walk the whole thing to be considered a pilgrim.
That's right.
This is making me think of the old SNL skit, Father Guido Sarducci.
The odds that you could survive a 30-day walk through the wilderness of Spain in the Middle Ages, that probably had something to do with sending people on this route, right?
Yeah.
Because I imagine 1 in 100 actually made it.
Yeah, that'd be good to know the statistics of that.
But
okay, so back to the historical. Yes, yeah.
Yeah, but modern day pilgrimage has seen an influx of pilgrims that go for non-religious reasons. And a healthy dose of them you can find on YouTube right now. People who are either looking for an adventurous walk, but they don't want to do something like the Appalachian Trail. You also have people who have heard about the Camino through movies like The Way, or the sources that we've talked about on the show, and just kind of want to check it out for themselves. And you also have, plethora of opportunity to travel that wasn't available to generations of people up until, fairly recently in the world's history. The opportunity to just hop on a plane and go to Spain wasn't something that you could necessarily readily do in the 1930s, for instance, right?
Correct. So
So,
all that to say, because of these kind of very neutral evolutions of transportation and technology and exposure to different cultures and different opportunities, all that to say, the percentage of people who are participating in the Camino, who are doing so for specifically religious pilgrimage, religious reasons, is probably very, very low.
and yet, at its heart, it is a Catholic trail. Like that's the
It is,
tension that
and it
exists
is
here,
still
right?
to this day, despite the secularization of Europe, even more so than America. Obviously, a church on every corner in America. You see, I mean, it is still a deeply religious environment
Mm-hmm.
on the Camino
Mm-hmm.
because of cathedrals and churches and chapels and shrines everywhere you look. We should probably come back to this, even people who are creating their own shrines for
Mm-hmm.
whatever reasons along the way.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, so that how religious people or people participating for specifically religious reasons engage that. And I want to pick your brain on that as somebody who has led groups on
Mm-hmm.
Caminos versus non-religious people who go, and how do they interact with those spaces? I think that's what the ultimate outcome of this podcast, these like the video series of walking the Camino with people and interviewing people, that's kind of the nuts and bolts of this.
Yep.
Really, that's what this project is about. Why are you doing this? Not
Yeah.
you, whomever we encounter.
Yeah, which is kind of an obvious question, It's kind of like you kind of want to ask people, what do you think you're going to find out here?
I
Not
mean, we could just
necessarily.
post up in St. John and ask that question of everybody, and boom, you got a
That's right.
podcast. You know what I mean?
That's right.
We don't even have to walk.
So that's what we're talking about today. This big question of do you have to God or can you not God on this trail? That's our big question. So the way that we do our discussion episodes is that we usually frame this in three parts. We do like a physical question, a mental question, and a spiritual question. Obviously, this leans heavily into the spiritual side, but I think that there are some components that affect the other side. So, for instance, the physical part is something that you mentioned already, which is that this is a trail designed to take you through, past, by as many religious sites as possible, as many Catholic sites as possible, whether it be cathedrals or small churches or even things like the Cruz de Ferro. This
I was going to bring that
repurposed
up. Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's like this repurposed obelisk on the top of this mountain. I think it was originally a pagan structure that then the Catholics repurposed for their religion. But yeah, you are constantly sort of moving through physically religious spaces. And I'm curious, when you did your Camino, what were you expecting? Were you expecting to like stop in every church along the way?
Didn't think about it in the sense that I think maybe because, we didn't go for specifically religious reasons, but there were some place, obviously along the way, if you're in Pamplona or Burgos or Leon or places like that where there are actual cathedrals.
Hmm.
Well, of course we went in. I mean, we still love art.
Yeah.
And what better place to spend a few hours than La Catedral de Santa María de Burgos, a monument in splendor and size to the Virgin Mary. Construction began in the year 1221, following French Gothic patterns. A must-see destination for pilgrims and tourists alike. This place houses a collection so vast and varied, UNESCO declared it a World Heritage Site on October 1984. One could easily and willingly get lost in this place, as I did for the better part of the morning. Take an audio tour and learn the history behind exquisitely preserved works of art by extraordinary artists, and visit its numerous Gothic and Renaissance tombs, including that of El Cid himself. The Cathedral of St. Mary of Burgos is by far my favorite church of all times.
And aesthetics, especially growing up Protestant and not having that, but no, I didn't feel the need to move into every space. And sometimes Amy would go into a space and I wouldn't, or vice versa. And it's just however the mood struck, but I didn't really give it much thought in terms of, I think I was probably more focused just on the physicality of the action of the act of just walking all day, every day, or most of the day, every day. But I did find it on occasion to be quite inspiring. But no, I don't know that I prepared myself in that way to like think about how I would interact with those spaces.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nor did we have what I think you may have done. I'm making a big assumption here, but I think we've talked about this, where there are groups of people who go, or people who they may go solo or just with a very small group, who do kind of spiritual reflection or religious practices in preparation for going, and do those along the way also.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Yeah.
Participated in that. I would say, I was expecting there to be a lot more sort of devotional, I don't know, just stuff along the trail. Like you start that first day, you leave Saint Jean, you're walking up over the Pyrenees, and there's like a Madonna and Child up on top of the mountain. And I was expecting stuff like that, like almost every day on the journey. Like there would be something, some sort of like statue or relic or tchotchke or church or something like that. And generally there is a church every day, because pretty much every village that you stay in, there's a church at the center of the village. But what I wasn't prepared for was that all of those churches are closed for the most part. They're not necessarily functioning churches. They're more like museums, and their sort of their existence is actually kind of dependent on people walking this trail, which is to say that like they're open on the weekends and you can go in and like look around the church, and you can pay them money to look around their church. But for the most part during the week, they're closed,
My favorite part is if they have an icon or a particularly meaningful piece of art. It's like you can drop a euro in a bin to turn the light on,
Yeah.
Well, this is a separate conversation. I don't want to go too down in the weeds on this, because I mean that you're touching on this. We've talked about a bit about the economics of this, and there are whole communities that exist because of this pilgrimage, not just the churches that are in the center of these small towns. So
no, that's right. And I mean, hey, it's not just the small churches that are doing this. You talked about those cathedrals. Like if you're going to go into the Burgos Cathedral, the Leon Cathedral, you got to pay to go in.
Yeah.
And usually there's a tour associated with it, like either a self-guided tour that you can listen to or something like that. But it ain't like free admission, go on in, take all the pictures that you want kind of thing.
Right.
I do wonder though, did you see anything that actually affected you while you were on the trip? Like was there a church or a statue or a monument that was a contemplative place for you on the trail?
I don't think so, to be honest with you. I think it was more the act of being away and relatively unplugged and encountering new people and having some fairly meaningful relationships. I mean, look, I'm sure I know I was in awe of the cathedral in Leon. I mean, that place is stunning.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how can you not be? Just the sheer grandeur of those places. I have to go back to my notes and look in my photos, but nothing jumps out at me at the moment.
I think there are two for me. One is the obvious one. And I think, that was kind of a loaded question, because I think that it didn't take into account that the cathedral in Santiago is probably one of those places. And I don't know if it's the cathedral itself or if it's
it's stunning.
It's the 0.0 kilometer marker,
Yeah. Well, the cathedral, that place felt like a tank to me. Like it's just such a behemoth. Yeah. What was the second one?
Well, honestly, I don't even know. Now that I think about it, I take it back. I don't think it's the cathedral. I think it's the plaza. The plaza at the end listen, you could tell me that that's what heaven is, and I would kind of believe you
I'd be
because it's,
down for. Well, I don't know. We sent each other the article about
oh my gosh, the over tourism.
the
Yeah.
over tourism, but at least in the moment that we arrived and when we went before it may be, overridden by tourists, I agree with you. Like
The only
I
reason
kind
that
of
I
felt how it was so joyous and peaceful and
exactly.
yeah,
That's the reason that I say it is because every 5 minutes somebody's celebrating walking into that space. And you just get swept up in the whole thing. It's like I could have spent honestly after I got to Santiago, and I think I did. I could spend whole mornings just watching people arrive
yeah,
in
yeah,
that plaza.
yeah.
It
I
was
would
like the
say
best TV show. Yeah.
it's a close second to, hopefully, if I die and wake up somewhere, it's at a big, giant German beer tent during Oktoberfest. But no, that's a great. And again, look, somebody who walked it not for religious reasons, having that feeling that type of way about
Yeah.
that space, you
Yeah.
know. And I think that's when you start to tap into something that's. I guess we could really rewind this whole conversation up to this point to say, well, what is your definition of religion,
You're right.
or what is religious?
Right.
And these
Because
things of like ultimate concern
yeah.
or you know community or whatever, a lot of that comes to the forefront and like outside of dogma or
Right.
adherence to tradition or whatever.
Well, that actually is a good segue to my second one, which is like the plaza definitely. My second one was the Cruz de Ferro. And
See,
the
that felt so manufactured to me,
exactly. That's what I thought it would be. I went
and you
I
felt
went
it
up
anyway.
to that thing
It's like
thinking
the Thomas Kincaid painting of the Camino.
this is so prescribed. Like come on, man. Like, this idea that you've carried this rock with you all the way from home, you're going to put it at the foot of this cross. And,
And
and by that point, I
boom,
was
you're gonna
like,
feel a certain way.
I'm just going to walk on by. Brother, when I tell you, and it may be because I hit it at just the right moment as like the sun's coming up over the mountain and stuff like that, but I don't think that it was standing at the foot of the cross. I don't think it had anything to do with the cross. I think what it marked for me was that this journey and this way of life that I had been living for what, 20 something days up to that point, not only was it coming to an end, but all that stuff that I did, all of that mattered. Like that's what it felt like when I was there and I was putting that thing down. I was like, oh, man, all of these days, all these steps that took me to this point, it it actually meant something.
Damn it, Greg, that's beautiful. I mean, my gosh. Okay, fine, you can have it. That's actually really good.
We're coming up on the famous Cruz de Ferro. Just as the sun's about to rise, we brought a stone with us all the way from the cross on the top of Mount Royal in Montreal to deposit at this cross, along with any thoughts or memories that we prefer to leave behind. I have some ideas of what I'll be leaving here, as I'm sure does just about everybody. But I have some thoughts for the past few days about what's going into that stone and what I'm leaving behind. It's pretty impactful. Happy that we're here.
Another thing too, when to think back on it, it is so profoundly symbolic. This visualization of the community that you're a part of.
Yeah.
I mean, I can be cynical about, you have to lay this down and you're, really letting go of something or whatever. But seeing that so many thousands and thousands of people have
Yeah.
done that, that's kind of special.
Yeah. I mean, that's the other thing is that it is an ocean of people's rocks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And to think about people who weren't cynical about it.
Not
something.
everything, even marketing gimmicks can sometimes not necessarily be a marketing gimmick.
Well, watch the Christmas commercials in the UK. I mean, my gosh. It's
I'll
better
send
than
you a
most movies these
postcard. I'll send
days.
you a postcard with the Cruz de Ferro on it.
Thank you.
Let's talk about the mental aspect
Hmm.
of that's religious.
What are you thinking about that?
Well, that's a good question. Honestly, I don't really have a whole lot of thoughts in this realm, except for the fact that I remember the very first time I went on Camino, I was taking a group of high schoolers, like three high schoolers, and then it was like me and two other chaperones that were doing this trip. And I remember we got to Saria and we're having dinner with other pilgrims in our albergue, and our Camino is just starting, and most of the other pilgrims that we're having dinner with, they started back in St. John, so their Camino is actually ending. So we're having this conversation around the table, and we're talking to this one guy who's like a devout Roman Catholic, and we're talking about how excited we are to start our trip to Santiago, all of this stuff. And he was like, I'll never forget it. He was like, does it really mean anything if you start here? Like, it only really means something if you start back there, like where we started, because that's the holy trip. And I was like, oh my God, this is what we're fighting against, is this sort of entrenched doctrinal institutional religious thought that doesn't really have any meaning to it. It's just all superstition. It's just all like, well, in order for this to work, you have to start here and you have to end here and you have to be thinking this the whole time.
Instead of celebrating the fact that somebody's just on that journey,
Right.
period.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to tell you, as somebody who was sitting on the other side of you in that conversation, I would have been that guy because, like, we got to that point, and Amy was like, "Wait, where all these people come from?"
Hmm.
I've been walking with them for 3 weeks.
Tourists.
No, so if you're talking about that, about the mental aspect of it, which is also profoundly spiritual because it has things to do with, it has to do with things like greed and, or not greed, but like selfishness and allowing your story to dictate other people's story or
Hmm.
experience or whatever. That stuff's really spiritual. I mean, that we struggle with. And
But there's
I mean,
also,
outside,
yeah,
go
there's this
ahead.
very human aspect to that too, where it's
Oh
like,
my gosh. I mean, when I say profoundly spiritual, you might as well also say
yeah.
profoundly human. Like
Mhm.
for me, when we were talking before we started recording about what we were, kind of an outline of what we're talking about. Like when I hear religious, I don't know that I think the ultimate concern anymore. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's too spiritual for me.
Yeah.
And I would prefer that. Like when I think about religious, I think about the person that you sat across from and said, this isn't real for you.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, I think it makes total sense. But also at the same time, I think to myself, like, so much of the religion and religious language that I see being used is prescriptive language. I'm just going to keep going back to that word because that's the word that I was thinking of at the Cruz de Ferro, right? It's like,
That's right.
you're
Yeah.
supposed to have a meaningful experience here, so go do it, kind of thing. And and it doesn't matter like where you are on the spectrum. You can be the most devout Roman Catholic, you can be the most loosey goosey Protestant. And there seems to be this built in idea. I mean, if you're going to do this, you probably kind of need to do it my way, like all along that spectrum. And it's just, I think that what I came away from my sort of, okay, my full Camino experience, my Saint Jean to Santiago experience,
Full meal deal.
only because I met more people. And that's what I'm gonna couch this in, is that, brother, if you don't go in open minded to what people's stories can possibly be, you are going to miss the forest for the trees.
And isn't that the lesson to me for life?
I
I mean,
mean,
that's for me to wake up in Jackson, Mississippi tomorrow morning. I should have that attitude.
you would hope. You would hope. And yet, we just keep getting more and more headlines across the board saying, no, if you're going to be in America, you got to be this way, kind of thing. It's like, wow, we just don't learn lessons from these
No,
things.
man. No. What else do you think about mental? Do you tie mental to like just, and I guess for the sake of this conversation, we're talking just about the religious slash spiritual component versus I don't know how you, like, this may be a dumb question. Sorry, I'm losing my headphone. I don't know how you participate in the Camino, even as the most experience centric person,
Mm.
and not have some sort of spiritual slash religious experience, unless you were just the most jaded of travel influencers.
Unless you're a tourist, yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Um, like I bet you could, and I think we've discovered some of these videos. Like I've played them on our pod. A few people who are like, "Oh man, we thought that the Camino would be great, and we got out there, and there were like no hotels for us to stay in, and we tried to have lunch at this spot and dinner at this spot, and nobody would serve us, and or nobody would help us, even though we didn't speak Spanish, or something." It's like this. It's a lot of tourism complaints that you get, right? And that's when you have to start thinking to yourself, well, how were you approaching this mentally, right? Were you going into this thinking, I am open to whatever this trail has for me? Or were you trying to enforce your will on what your Camino is going to be? And I
Yeah.
think that, yeah,
Yeah, I think that's the case of the is that YouTube person who just like quit.
right.
Like you might as well just go home.
And I imagine too, like we've been talking about overcrowding and over tourism. Well, we've been talking about all of Europe has been talking about it because there's just so many people in Spain, especially now. Because and the reason that a lot of protests are springing up in Spain is because when tourists show up to a place like Santiago de Compostela and they overwhelm the place, well, if you own property in that city, then you can just Airbnb your apartment. So you don't even have to live in town. You can just like rent out to all these pilgrims. Well, what that does is that it limits the housing market for young people that are living in
Yeah.
that area.
Yeah.
And so it's forcing them to live further and further away from the city that they work in. So I get it. Like I get it.
Oh,
like,
absolutely.
these protests that they're having.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's kind of breaking apart the natural community there, people that live there.
Mm-hmm. And then, like we said, with the tourism conversation, it's like once people, start showing up in your city, demanding what your city should be, all of a sudden things can take a turn for the worse quickly.
Yeah.
I don't know that I had a whole lot for the mental. You have anything for mental?
I mean, I just need some mental help.
I think the main thing was the spiritual, right? And it's this
Yeah.
idea of, it's this age old question of if you're walking this path, which we've already said, historically a Catholic path, and that is not your tradition, are you hijacking something that belongs to somebody else?
You're not having the experience.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I guess that's the thing. Is this supposed to be a life-changing experience spiritually for you, or is this just a nice 30-day walk out in the Spanish countryside?
And what's the test for that? Who gets to say?
That's the question, right? Yeah.
I mean, I had heard stories about albergues that would turn people away because they suspected that these were people who had not walked the Camino, that they just showed up off a train looking for a cheap place to stay. What's the spiritual version of that? Do you know what I mean? Like, who's policing that, and does it even matter?
I believe that future pilgrims deserve honesty, not Instagram reels of Gregorian chants, overlays, and vague talk about how you're going to find yourself. Let's talk about what the Camino really is and what it is not. So my first point is fake spirituality. Let's talk about that. Let's be real. A lot of Camino influencers use spiritual buzzwords like retreats and coaching services. They want to sell books. They claim you will find a deep transformation, but they leave out the part where you're stuck in a dorm at night with 20 snoring pilgrims. Your feet are literally bleeding. Your back is aching. You miss your family. And you're wondering why the heck you signed up for this. Point 2. Real Camino struggles. The truth? The Camino is often physically grueling, emotionally draining, and full of mundane moments. It's not a beautiful, silent retreat. It's a blistered, sweaty, crowded walk with people who may not care about your journey to the self. And that's okay. But let's stop pretending otherwise. Point 3. Personal transformation is not guaranteed. You might not feel a single spiritual epiphany the entire 800 kilometers. It does not automatically transform you. The Camino gives you space, but the work, that is yours to do. And it often happens long after you return home.
It's funny because this idea of walking long distances, seeking some kind of spiritual meaning, that ain't Christian property. That's existed long before Christians ever came around, and certainly long before anything called the Camino de Santiago.
Yeah, fair enough.
So this idea of like journeying into the wilderness, seeking some kind of spiritual lesson, that's about as old as religion itself.
Yeah.
So it ain't like Christians have the corner on the market, but I mean, listen, if I walk the Shikoku in Japan and I don't reverence the temples, or even I just skip the temples, I'm just walking around and I see the temples from the outside, I'm like, oh, okay, cool temple, bro, and then just keep walking. Like, am I really a pilgrim on the Shikoku at that point?
No.
This is what I'm saying. Like,
why would you want that designation? Like, why would you care?
Well, so then if I'm doing the same thing on the Camino, like, what am I doing there? You know, like if I'm not stopping for a pilgrim mass every few days, like, what am I doing?
Yeah, a friend recently just asked me if I wanted to hike the Cotswolds with him.
Mm-hmm.
That's not a pilgrimage, but that's to me a deeply spiritual opportunity.
Yeah.
There's something about the history and the present that make it something different. But to your point, there's also something in the intentionality of the participant that matters.
I don't think it hurts, right? Like I think that's where I ultimately come down is, listen, I'm not Roman Catholic. This is not my tradition. I'm not walking this path for the same reasons that, you know, St. Francis walked this path or the Pope walked this path or whatever. Like that's not the reason I'm doing it. However, if I am walking this path without a reverence for the things that are on the path, then I may as well just be walking out in the street outside of my house. Why did I go to Spain to do this, right?
Just go walk the 405.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like I don't think that you have to be a practicing Catholic in order for this to be meaningful for you. But I do think that you have to have a reverence for the ground and the history of the thing that you're walking on.
Fair enough. And you need to carry that with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you can't even give voice to that, because I think that there are some people who are like, look, I am not religious. I'm not spiritual. I saw this and I thought it would be cool. But I guarantee if they meet people along the way, they engage in community, they overcome challenges, they do all of those things that we talk about.
Have a beer and some peppers at the end of the day, and then a pilgrim meal together. This is what I was trying to say. I think, but that all depends on what you said from almost the beginning, which is having this openness.
Yeah.
To me, when you say reverence for the ground and the history and the symbolism or whatever, to me, that's just an open mind. I am aware that like this is important to people in ways that I'll never understand. And so I think that's going to naturally shape my attitude and the way I move because I think I would inherently be more respectful as
Right.
opposed to saying, "Oh, I don't believe that crap."
Right.
I'm just here to be a tourist and walk around and drink wine, beer, and, get my steps in. Like,
Yeah.
those are different things.
I do think there's something inextricably linked to people. Like I listen, I'm an extroverted guy. I like talking to people. So I get my energy from talking to people. So I imagine that there are people who have done this pilgrimage as an introvert and didn't want to talk to anybody. I think that would be hard to do, but I guess you could do it at the end of the day if you wanted to isolate yourself.
Oh, you can just leave later or earlier. I mean, there are
Yeah.
rhythms as we've talked about. So, yeah, you could definitely self isolate.
I think it would be hard though.
Yeah, because you're going to naturally butt up against people like me and you who are like,
Hey, what are
hey,
you doing? Why are you
tell
out
me your
here?
life
Yeah.
story. I'm curious.
But that's the thing, right? Like you have voluntarily put yourself in a situation where people from around the world are coming to this place because of something. And maybe they know the reason and maybe they don't know the reason. But everybody that's on that path is looking for something. And you've put yourself in the middle of people that are looking for something from around the world. That's a spiritual experience. And it has nothing to do with the ground, you know?
That's true. Yeah. Finally, we've arrived where no one else ever has.
Exactly. Turns out it was all about the people all along.
Okay, what's part 3? You said spiritual.
No, we did it. Physical, mental, spiritual.
That's right.
I think it's a both and not an either or. I think that you can do this for spiritual reasons that are non-religious, and you can do this for non-religious reasons that become very, very spiritual.
That's
Like,
good.
your
Yeah.
heart.
Or
Yeah.
you could just be a complete a-hole who could just go hike the AT. Right? Like if you're just out here to get your steps in, just go take that somewhere else.
Yeah, if you want to isolate, do the AT.
But who am I to
It's a
say?
piece of
Who am I to say? You never know what surprises await people.
I think those are deeply spiritual journeys. I think, hey, I
No,
think
I don't think.
anytime.
No, I'm not saying they're not. I'm saying about the people who, like, when you're talking about it's both and,
Yeah.
like, for the people who are, you know, but there is a person who may be in that middle of the both and just not won't experience either
Mm-hmm.
because of their mindset or
Mm-hmm.
whatever, or because they're just so focused on documenting and being a tourist. Like, and what I'm saying is, you could take that somewhere else.
Yeah.
But again, that's not my. Who am I to say, right?
Anytime you walk out your door, it's a possible pilgrimage.
Okay, Bilbo.
That's what I was saying. Yeah, I was about to say. To quote Tolkien.
Everything comes back to the Lord of the Rings.
You never know where you're going to
We're going on an adventure.
Oh, Lord.
All right, what are we doing next?
Next
up?
up, Ryan, we have an interview coming up next.
Legit?
Yeah, legit interview.
With who?
We are going to be talking to a sociology professor.
Okay, let's go.
From Franklin Pierce University.
Okay.
Who has been leading a Camino semester every other year since 2013. But he and his wife have been teaching semesters, basically like a month-long summer semester for credit, where they take college students on the Camino. So we're going to be talking to them about how they came up with this and why they do it. So that's what we're doing next time. Brian, thank you for stepping out of your house with me on our great adventure.
As I sit in my house and stare out the window.
We're going to get to Santiago de Compostela. I'm going to drop the one ring right there in the plaza. So, with that being said, we will see you next time. See you down the road. Dwayne.
Safe travels, everybody.